Hi, I'm Donna Bordeaux with Campground Accounting. We are here today at Pine Ridge Campground in beautiful Roebuck, South Carolina, and we're talking with Brad McGalliard. We've been working with Brad for several years now, and we're going to hear a little bit about his journey as a campground owner. So we want to talk a little bit about how you got to be a campground owner. Now, I've heard a little bit of the story before.
Yeah.
But let's go way, way back.
I was born in 1962. So I was working at AT&T, and it was a good job, but I wasn't happy there. Just a lot of stuff. But anyway, so I was always trying to think, what can I do next? What can I do? Where can I go? What kind of job do I want? I was a lineman. I was tired of climbing poles. Didn't want to climb any more poles. So they sent me out of town for 6 months to Asheville, and they would give you money for, per diem, money for a place to stay, or give you a place to stay and give you money for food, or you could have all the money and you could take care of everything. I said, well, I got a camper. We camped. We weren't like every weekend campers, or maybe in the summer, maybe once a month. Kids had things going on, so it wasn't like we went all the time, but we went. But I was thinking I could take my camper somewhere and stay in it. And so I found a place, Rutledge Lake, nice campground, outside of Asheville, and was there for 6 months. And at first it was just a place to sleep and, eat and go to work. But the longer I was there, I kept seeing people coming and going. I'm like, this is not a bad gig. How hard can it be? I'm not a business guy, no business background, just a high school grad, nothing. But I figured it can't be that complicated. And so I looked around on the internet and I found a class for campground ownership. It was Daryl Hess gave it. He doesn't do it anymore, but that's who it was with. And my wife and I went for 2 days. I went to every class. She sort of hung around some. She thought I had lost it. So anyway, we sat through that thing and started looking. And we looked at 13 campgrounds. This was the 13th one. We sold our house, whatever we made off the house, plus our 401k, and Donna can tell you more about all the Rob stuff, but I took our 401k and rolled in our own corporation and barely had enough to make the down payment. It was like Texas Hold'em.
So we were what were you looking for when you were looking for campground?
Cece will tell you that every one of them worked for me. I was so ready to get out that I had this idea. Now, it didn't matter which one it was. I was taking one of them. But, we wanted North Carolina initially because that's where we were from. We wanted to stay close to family. And there was only, I think, 9 for sale at the time. And some of them were, way more than I could afford. Some didn't look like they would make enough money for me to do that as my job. I could maybe do it, but I'd still have to work somewhere else. We made an offer on one in Boone and didn't get it. But it was seasonal. And that's sort of, that's one of those things that's good and bad.
Yeah.
You're off in the winter, but you're not making any money then either. And it was like June or July, I think, when we found out it was for sale and made the offer. And so you got a little window of making money, and then you had to survive. So that didn't work. And so we found this one in, I think, November, I believe it was. No, it was before that, because we sold our house in October, I think it was. Anyway, not sure of the date. It's been a long time.
That's all right.
10 years, 10 plus. So we sold our house and moved into a camper and came here. But it was Roebuck, South Carolina was not high on the list. It's near Spartanburg. We didn't have any information really on the area. I just never thought highly, for whatever reason. The Spartanburg was a place that people would come to camp, I guess. But when we got down here, it's not the same as it was, but it's out by itself, sort of. It feels like you're out in the middle of nowhere. Had good customer. In November, it was full. So this was it, I guess. But we looked at some North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee.
Was it listed for sale when you bought it?
It was, but it was under a business for sale. It wasn't. It wasn't a Campground For Sale website.
Right.
And we'd seen it early, before we looked at a lot of the other ones.
Yeah.
And just never said. And finally, we got to the point where, okay, if we don't find something here, we're gonna have to start looking farther out.
Right.
And we didn't want. I mean, we would have, I guess. We didn't really want to.
Right.
And so.
So was it love at first sight? Did you come here and say like, this is the one, or was it
pretty,
like?
Well, for me, like I said, they were all that way. I was just so ready to get out. But Cece said, yeah, she she didn't have, I don't, the vision of owning a campground wasn't hers, but she was good. She's practical, and she saw things that I didn't see, and was pointing out things. So yeah, it was. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it was something we thought we could do, manage. It wasn't too big. We could handle it, and we thought we'd make a living. The guy did owner financing, and so he gave me a good rate. And he'd done a lot of work. He'd had it for 6 years, but it's 50 years old now, and so it's been through a lot. A lot of people have done different things.
Right.
But
awesome. So when you first had that thought, like, yep, this is the one we're going to move forward with, I'm sure you had like a laundry list of like, I could do this, I could do that, I could do this, I'd change this. Did you have that whole laundry list lined up of what you were planning to do, or did you figure like, we're just going to go there and see what
Well, it was like I said, first we didn't have any money, so there was what I wanted to do didn't really matter. It's what I could afford to do, and so most early on it was just basically keeping things going. Now we made little stuff, like we added more holiday activities, that kind of thing. We did those type of things that didn't really cost you any money, but it was probably, gosh, a few years before we felt like we could afford to start doing really some changes. And part of that's, like I said, it was probably us not knowing any better, because we probably could have raised rates right away, because he was really cheap, I think.
Yeah.
But you're afraid to make that, and I can't tell you how many times you've said, you guys need to do this and change your rates and do this, what's it called when you move?
Dynamic pricing.
Yeah, do all these things, and we're like, I don't know. But you've been right on all that stuff. I'm just saying, anybody listening to this, listen to Donna. She's good about helping you out. So we just didn't know and didn't have the money. So there might have been visions, but it wasn't anything we could put in practice. I can't tell you what they were now. A lot like the site we're sitting on. It was a single park model, and we'd rent it monthly, and it just finally, when I was done with it, we decided to make it a site. And I didn't really have a plan for this site till I started doing it. It was like, let's pour this concrete, not big enough. Let's add this deck.
Yeah.
Let's add this pergola. Let's do this.
Oh, it's a wonderful
site. But I'm saying that's kind of, no, did I have a vision of how things I want to do? No, I'm not that guy. But up close I can, but not far off, I guess.
And when did you reach the point where you thought, like, looking back, like, yeah, this was a good idea, I'm really glad we did this? Or have you reached that point?
Day one was a good idea. I was so, like I said, I was so ready to leave. Just
how,
having the freedom.
How was that when you got to go into your employer and tell them, like, I'm done?
I told him I was doing something and I'm going to be leaving, but I didn't tell him what it was, because I don't know how reasonable my thinking was, but I don't want anybody else looking for campgrounds that's not already looking for one, because there's only so many of them out there, and I don't want them beat me to the punch. So I didn't tell anybody what I was doing until pretty much we'd already not done the deal, because we moved down here in like January and stayed in our camper for 3 months, work camping. But I did a lot more than a work camper. I did everything he would let me do, and I was out there every hour. It wasn't like 20 hours and you go home. If he was working, I was working. Because I was trying to learn everything I could learn.
So what's the biggest thing that, looking back, you say, in our search, I wish we would have?
Listen to your accountant. No, I don't know.
Did you have an accountant when you first started?
No, well, we had somebody that did our taxes. We didn't really have an account. We just did our taxes, and there are things we'd call and ask. It was Marcia, that used to own the campground down the road. We met him at the Carvick, which the associations. I'll throw that out. I know say to me I'm jumping around. Sorry,
that's all right.
But the associations, if you don't know, Arvik is the national association, and they have a lot of good information. They have classes you can take, vendors, all these kind of things that can help you. Learn things you don't know. YouTube, like there wasn't. I guess there was YouTube. I don't even know if there was YouTube, and I didn't watch much if there was. But I think there's a lot more channels now. I've seen quite a few people have campground owner channels. None of them are as good as ours, but so there's a lot more information out there. But I mostly we're winging it. I think mostly if you're good to people and you try to keep a nice place. And some amenities. If the kids are happy, then you're okay. And camping is so busy right now, you'd really have to try to mess up, I think, to not do okay. You may not do the best, but to make a living, I think you can. Unless you're doing something really crazy,
Yeah. And, you know, with the family campground experience
Right.
here, you guys provide a great experience. People love coming here. They come here year after year,
Right.
week after week. They're looking, you've got events stacked up all the time. You got the barbecue competitions. It's just a great place for
Right.
people to be. And like you said, if you can just put smiles on people's faces and give them a happy memory, they love to keep coming back.
Some of those things, like the barbecue, that was a COVID thing. Just so happened they needed a place to go, and they used us. After COVID was over, they wanted to start paying them to come, and I'm like, no, I can't do that. So it was nice while it lasted. We got a lot of really good free barbecue, but I don't know that will ever happen again. But yeah, it was good. But that's, you try to come up with things. We did food trucks this year, which hadn't been doing. That seems to be working out pretty well. So it's always learning and stealing ideas from other campgrounds. People do it all the time. So
Yep, you got to watch what's going on in the industry and
That's right.
see it. Yeah, awesome. So moving then a little further into ownership.
Yes.
So you got your feet wet, got that first year under your belt. What were your thoughts then? Like, what were you thinking?
Like I said, the whole idea was to be better off down the road than I was when I, was working for AT&T, and we were making a living. Now, I don't know how everybody else does it, but for us, the house, which is up on the hill, is the campground owns it, so we got a free place to live. That pays for our phones, it pays for our vehicle, it's paying for our, electricity, all those things. It's covering all those kind of things. So money wise, I didn't make a big check because we were putting most of it back in, but we were living okay. And I wasn't living great, I wasn't like people.
But the cost of living being a campground owner.
Yeah, people start counting camp sites and all that kind of thing, and they're thinking, okay, this is what they're making. Everybody comes here thinks that way, but it costs a lot to run one of these places.
It does.
It's not, and then you have to have help. The bigger you get, the more help you need.
Right.
And then you're either paying them or paying them and giving them a place to stay, which is what we do. That adds up. And I'm not making money off that site.
Right.
So I got 3 of those right now that I'm doing that way. So that doesn't help you, but you got to have help. You got to have help. And the bigger you get, the more help you need. And I think it's hard to find help nowadays. We have some really good ones, but.
Well, and luckily you have some built-in help.
Yeah, you're right.
You're solid employee, your son, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how Evan moved into the business and what his role has been.
Evan, he wasn't a college guy. I think he went for 1 year, and that wasn't his thing. And we were going to say, okay, well, we're doing this. Come with us. And that was the plan. And then he met a girl. So he was gone for 2 years. So we bought it in 2013, and about 2015, it worked out that his wife by then they got married where they're here, but they're engaged. They moved. She got a job with Duke Energy and could work remote, and so she worked from the house, which was the double wide across the pond for a while. They lived there, and Evan came and started work with us. And Evan, really good with people, very personable, hard worker. We don't see eye to eye on everything, but how many parents and kids do? But really good here, really good, and it helped a lot because that gave us some days off because really you don't get a lot of time off if you're just a couple trying to run a campground. We didn't have any work campers then either. I don't think. I think that was later on, but
you were the go-to guy.
Yeah, I mean, you did everything. You did everything, and early on, like I said, money we fixed. Luckily, I'm fairly handy. I can't fix everything, but I was a lineman, so I could change breakers and I could dig a hole and fix a water line if I have to. Those kind of things. Yeah. So otherwise, you're paying somebody.
Right. So then we're building the puzzle now. So now you got the ownership in. Yep. Got a little help now along the side that you can depend on, always trust in. So things are growing.
Yes.
You put a lot of money back into the campground and keep reinventing over and over. Right. So then comes a stage, like let's say 3 or 4 years in, I think we met.
Yes.
Right? And then you decided, like, let's take that next step.
Right.
And you guys really took a leap of faith in us.
Yes.
And that's how it always works because we can't give you the automatic guarantees on things, but in knowing how to do things right, we made some pretty strategic moves that I'm really thrilled about.
Yes.
You had the Rob's plan in
Right.
place with the 401k.
Right, we did.
We were able to take an opportunity moment
Right.
and exit that.
Yes.
So that's going to provide some really great benefits. It has already, and as we talk about selling a
Yeah.
campground, wow, big time changes. So
Right.
that's a good move to make sure that you're lined up to be making good decisions all along the way.
Right.
So since we've been working together,
Right.
tell me a little bit about how you feel about the approach. And I'm not looking
Yeah.
for compliments
No,
here. I just want to know about.
Some out.
I just want to know about
Yeah.
how things have changed for you when now you have some, besides having your son to help you and some other work campers to help you, and now we're helping on the accounting side
Right.
and the financial side and navigating that world. How has that changed your world?
I guess before that happened, we added those sites.
Right.
We Evan.
Oh yeah, we bought another
Evan,
piece
Evan
of land.
bought a piece of land initially. They built their house on an acre of it. The campground bought the rest of it from him, and we had to get the permission and all that. That's a long
Right.
story. But anyway, had rock, all kind of issues up there. I've talked about it in some of the other ones. But we bought the other piece of property and put in 28 sites up there monthly, and those worked out really well. We had to borrow more money. Got out of my owner financing. I was in owner
Right.
financing. He couldn't come up with more money. Had to go to the bank. Had to actually refinance twice because when we ran the rock, we were running low on money and had to do it twice.
Right.
But it worked out, and that allowed us to get your suggestion to get out of the Robs because we had that big investment, and
Right.
it changed things. Said we weren't worth anything, which hurt my feelings a little, but
Now you're happy about
but
that.
it worked out. Yeah, it was one of those things. It's paper. I don't know how it works, but anyway. But it was good to get out of that, and that freed us. We made more money then, and we're free to do more things. And I think that's where a lot of the improvements started coming in because we were able to do it.
Right.
Now it's not like, crazy stuff, but I mean, we did the road this year with $75,000. We probably couldn't have done that,
Right.
if we hadn't added more sites for a while because that increased the income. So,
And that also freed up because you were able to take some of your monthlies who were down here and move them up
yes,
there,
correct.
so you could make this
Right,
more.
right. It's one of those, and I don't know the exact. I don't know how you. I mean, I know you can figure out what your monthly rate is and how many nights that is and that kind of thing. But do you know how much a site will rent if it's empty? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You don't really know how many calls you get. How many do you need? If you're turning people away all the time, I'm sure there's a formula somewhere of how many sites you could add. My brain doesn't work that way. We
Part
just
of that, you just know you have.
we
when
know.
you have a good product.
Right.
You create your
Yes,
own demand.
we felt we needed more camping sites
Right.
for the weekends, which pays more. But at the same time, you hate to kick people out. So adding those sites was able to make that work. And I can't speak for everywhere, but Spartanburg's busy.
Yeah.
We turn away people all the time for monthly sites.
Yeah.
Cece's told me, you need to add more sites. I'm like, babe, I'm doing all I can do to keep up with the ones I got.
Yeah.
And we don't really have any space for a lot more sites. I could add a few here and there, but it
Right.
wouldn't make
Right.
a big dent. But I mean, it helped, I guess. But it's one of
Right.
those things.
Right. So how many years in are we now?
10.
Okay, 10 years. At probably about 8, we started talking about your exit strategy.
Right.
And at first, you were a little teetering, like, I don't know.
It's hard. It's hard to make change. Change is hard.
Yes,
you know.
it is.
And it's not like I haven't done it before.
And
So
you're
it's
comfortable.
yeah. And actually, like I said, we didn't pay ourselves hardly anything early on. I think the first year, basically, we just paid ourselves back from our home loan. I don't think we even took a salary a year and a half or so. And even after that, like I said, since the campground covers most things, we didn't need as much. But
Right.
I still wasn't. I'm working myself to death for, I don't even want to say, $20,000 or something. It was crazy. I'm like, I'm killing myself.
Yeah.
At some point, I ought to get some reward out of this thing.
Right.
That's the. I mean, early on, it didn't matter. I was okay, but the longer you're in it, you're thinking, why am I doing this? I mean, I know when you sell, that's when you get your money, but at the same time, you ought to be able to say, gosh, I sure would like to go out to eat at that nice restaurant tonight. Can't do it this week, You ought to be able to do something every now and then. Now, we went on vacation, but that was 1 week, 2 weeks out of a year.
Yeah.
when everybody else is getting 4 weeks out of the year, and I'm working the holidays, and they're out here having a good time. And it's like, at some point.
Well, it's hard watching other people be on vacation.
Right.
When you're
Yeah.
going to be the worker guy.
And people, we'd be out here talking. You make friends, you meet campers, people that are monthlies, and they'll say, "Hey, where are you going?" I was like, "I'm going home. It's 8. I've been working all day. I'm still working. You may think you're having a fun time, and I'm enjoying myself, but I still feel like it's working. If I'm out here, it feels like work. And so I'm ready to get away from it. So that changes. But I sort of almost forgot your question.
We were talking about exit strategy.
Well, you hope at some point, and then Evan, okay, that throws things out, exit-wise. But if it was just Cecilia and I, we sell, we're done. Evan's involved now. So what do you do with Evan? Does he take over? Do you let him pay me? That put a lot of pressure. I don't know if I'd want that pressure of provide my dad his retirement. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
It's like that's a lot to put on somebody. What if something goes wrong
Right.
and I can't pay my dad this month or whatever? Something happens at campground and I don't have the money, and then Dad's sitting there.
His house is going to be
Yeah,
foreclosed
what am I
on.
doing? So it was one of those things. It's just cleaner.
Family always comes first,
Yeah.
and you never want to mess with
It's
that.
cleaner to get rid of it and let him. And he's 32, I think. He's got a lot of time, and he'll be better off than I was at 32.
Yeah,
Come selling time. So, and he could do whatever he wants to do. I mean, he may, he could stay on. He could do his own. It's not. I started with $300,000. He ought to be in that range. He could do something at a lot younger than me.
Right.
And if he did it for 10 years and got to where we are.
And all the wealth of experience of what he's learned along the way.
Right. All free. I gave it to him for free.
Yeah.
But it's at some point you think how many good years you got left too.
Right.
I'm 60.
Right.
Your health, you're never guaranteed anything.
Yeah.
I could keep doing this and stay till 70, 67, wherever people retire at most of the time, and then die the next year. A lot of people do that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we started talking about the exit,
Yeah.
and then you said, "Yep, I think I'm gonna list it for sale."
Yeah.
And
Twice.
right. I was gonna say you listed it for sale. You had lots of people come
Yeah.
look. Not quite the right fit, and then
Nobody really the first time. It's like I said, we thought it was a good time to sell because business was so good, camping was booming,
Right.
so many people bought campers. Seemed like for whatever reason, more people discovered campgrounds as an option of owning something.
right.
Seemed like to me.
Yeah.
And so we thought, well, now's the time. And so we listed it and had for I think it was 3.7 something. We paid $1,050,000 is what we paid for. And I thought, well, okay, we'll see what happens. I really wanted more than that. I thought, and I didn't know what it was worth per se. Back to not knowing.
Right.
But they said this is a good figure, and I said okay. So we listed it and had 3 people come look, and no offers. So I said, well, maybe it's not a good time to sell. Maybe it's not. So the more we thought about it, we finally said, you know what, let's just stick with it and we'll just keep going. And so we were that for about a year.
Yep.
And then I had a guy that kept calling me. How you doing today? What do you think about selling? Nah, I'm good. Well, everything going good at the camp? Yeah, it is. He's a very personal guy, very nice guy, but he just kept. And finally I said, look, for how much? You keep calling me. What's your idea? And he threw out a number, and I'm like, really? I said, well, if that happens, yeah, we can do that. So we're almost there.
We listed it again.
Yeah.
You got you had 2 offers.
We had. It's hard to.
Sort of.
It depends on how you count them.
Yeah.
We had people off once they said we were interested in talking about. We hadn't signed a deal with them or anything to be our broker or anything. They had people that had already been working through them for other properties.
Right.
And they kept, hey, you got anything else coming up?
Right.
And so they said, yeah, this is, we're talking to somebody right now. So we got offers before we even listed.
Right.
And they were more than what we had listed for before.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, well, that's great. I hadn't even put it on the out there yet, and I've already getting more offers.
Right.
And I don't know, I don't know why. To me, that makes sense why it would be different with I don't want to say, I think I've already said before on another video, why a campground website didn't do as well as a business website. And once again, Donna said the first time, list with Colliers. That's not who I listed with,
Right.
but she told me more than once. I'm like, and I went to the website and looking at it, Donna, I don't see campgrounds. They're hard to find. Why would anybody buy a campground here? You can't even find them. They're not even listed under campgrounds. It's like under multi-use or something,
Right.
or something
Right.
goofy. I'm like, who's going to find this thing? So I didn't believe you. Once again, I was proven wrong. But so this guy kept bugging it, and so we had that one listing, or that one offer early on, and then we got another one, and the other one was like four. Really, it was one, but it was four different options, like option A, B,
Right.
C, and D of how to do it. And then we put it online, and we really didn't get a lot more people. We got one other guy that did full price, boom, right off the bat, and we're like, it just went up today or last week or so. It hadn't been up long.
Right.
And we were like, Ev and I, to say, we're like, well, this is what we said. Should we just take it, or I don't know, if that guy's jumping right now, who knows what you could get? And they suggested we hold off, and we did, and we ended up getting the same offer. We finally finalized on the same offer, but not with the person that made the first offer.
Right.
He sort of just faded out. I'm not sure about this. What's the thing called where you have to, when you sell something?
1031
I
exchange.
think that's what he was under. He was
Yeah.
under time constraints.
Got it.
And
Yeah.
we didn't move fast enough for him, so he did something else.
Now you got an offer,
Yes.
and you're in the due diligence process under contract.
That's the part that's
It's always
confused.
a little foggy.
It's a lot of different papers we got to sign. We agreed to a price initially. Then there was a purchase agreement
Yep.
that we worked on for a while back and forth. I signed it Friday.
Okay.
They have not re-signed it as I know of right now.
Right.
They may have. Nobody called me or
It's in
told
the
me.
works.
Unless something changes, and I don't know why. We were pretty upfront when we listed. Our broker asked for a lot of information. How much taxes, P&Ls, all these things. Reservation information, all this stuff, and we were pretty. And with your help, we had everything ready pretty
Yep.
much, and it was easy. Boom, 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 boom. Here's everything you want. If they want something else, we send it to them. It's gone. So they've had all the paperwork. I think. I don't
Right.
think there's anything they haven't had as far as that goes. So it was down to, what if we find this, or what, those kind
Right.
of things. What
Couple little
would,
terms,
things
right?
would change, and like property, like there's so much stuff on here, and the way it read, and me not being a lawyer, I just want to make sure I wasn't saying something I shouldn't
Yeah.
say. Like we have a house that has our furniture.
Right.
We have two vehicles that are the campgrounds, but we thought we'd keep them.
Yours.
We thought
Right.
we'd keep them. We have computers, a few tools, not
Right.
much, because when I came here, all my tools came with me.
Right.
Now they've worn out and broken and been used or lost or whatever over the years, and so I've replaced them, and they're the Campgrounds, and I wasn't planning on taking much.
Right.
But if I needed to take
You don't want to have to go buy a new hammer.
I threw out like I said, $1,000 max worth of
Right.
stuff, which it wouldn't have been probably anywhere near that, but just to cover it. But it wouldn't affect the campground, how you run the campground, because
Exactly.
I have plenty of screwdrivers, I have a couple drills, I have all the, so it wouldn't hurt anything.
Yeah.
And so stuff like that. And so is that language getting figured out.
Right.
So like I said, we signed it. Hopefully they'll sign it today. And once he gets signed, then the due diligence starts. And it could
Okay.
be 30 days, and they can extend it for 15 more days with another amounted escrow.
Right.
But it could be less than that. It could be a week. They could say,
Yeah.
we're ready.
And most of their due diligence is kind of already done.
Right. That's
to
what I'm saying,
get
because
to
they have
the
all the
offer.
paperwork. Yeah, they wouldn't have made that.
So,
They wouldn't
yeah.
have offered that kind of money if I
Without
couldn't
knowing.
prove that I was making that kind of money.
Right.
And then as far as it's as is where is, You know, they've been here. They've rode around. They had a guy come and take some pictures. So I don't know. They may come and check something, but I don't know what they would. You know, it's not going to change anything. You know, they know we maintain stuff, but there's always something that needs to be fixed or is getting a little old. You know, it's 50 years old. There's going to be things. So I think they're okay with that, but I don't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good. It sounds like we're on the right path, and
we
everything's moving pretty smooth. There's always little hiccups in there, but it doesn't sound like anything too unsurmountable at this point.
No. Like I said, and if it falls through, we'll
then you move on.
We'll just put it back up, baby.
Yeah.
You know, or hold for a little longer. I don't know what we'll do. Probably at this point we probably put it right back up if it fell through.
Yeah. So now you've reached this point where you've bought the baby, you've raised it, kept it all good, made it pretty, made people love it even more, and you're ready to pass that off to someone else. What's the next phase of life look like?
Well, initially, you know, it's one of those things. It's like I gotta tell you, have you ever thought about, boy, the lottery? I was $1 billion or something right now. What if I won the lottery? You know, what would you do? And it's not the lottery, but it is. I mean, lotteries are values. There are different values there. It's not the $1 billion lottery, and it's even not the $10 million lottery. It's, you know, it's and when you think of taxes and all that stuff, it's a lot less than people think. You look at the number and it sounds great, but it's really drops. But for initially, I dived. So Cece just got into diving, so we were thinking about getting a boat and heading to the Caribbean and diving off the boat and living that life for a while. Never had a boat, but we watched videos.
YouTube will help you on anything.
And we're like, we could do. I mean, I was a paratrooper. I jumped out of planes, never flown. You know, lineman, climbed poles, worked electricity. Bought a campground. I figure I could do it. You know, I'm not scared of trying. Found out the insurance of right now, because of the past hurricanes, is really hard to get for somebody without any past experience, and you can't go hardly anywhere. You have to stay like on the coast and all those things. So I said, well, that's out. So we are looking at St. Croix, I think, is our probable destination. Find a little condo. Nothing. I mean, if you look at prices of houses here and prices of a condo there, not a whole lot of difference.
Yeah.
Things are expensive now, but I think we can get in something. Hopefully, break even. You know, pay it or not break even, but pay it off and not owe any money on it. And then what our money comes in, we'll live off of that. May have to borrow a little bit, depending on what we just finally signed, because there's only so many open down there. You know, so you may have to change your mind, you know, to make it work. But and I don't know for how long. It may be, you know, go back to health. You know, how long do you got left?
Yep.
It may be forever. It may be 3 or 4 years. I can't imagine less than that amount of time.
Yeah.
I think you got to figure it out for a while first. I mean, I'm sure if we like to dive, so I'm sure we can dive for a while and make it happy. And I think we'll both get some kind of little side thing, whether it's volunteer or part-time job or something, just to, you know, fill some of the time.
Yeah,
but
you got to keep active.
Yeah, but I'm ready to take a break.
Yeah. That sounds like the big dream story when you pull it all together from start to finish.
Yeah.
You conquered a lot of milestones along the way.
It's emotional. Yeah. I mean, I love doing this. It's not. I've really enjoyed it, but there's times. We won't get into the times, but there's times it's like, what in the world? You know, like lately, since we decided to sell, I can't tell you how many things have acted up or broken or just weird
it's like
stuff.
when you start looking at new cars, the old car all of a sudden starts breaking down and getting stuff going on.
Yeah, it's exactly what's been going on. But but like I said, it's old. Things are supposed to act up, but sometimes it's people too.
Yeah. Yeah, people are finicky.
There's really, really, really good ones, and then there's some you're like, who raised you?
Yeah.
You know, why are you acting that way here?
Yeah. Awesome.
So what are your predictions for like the future of campgrounds in general? Like the industry as a whole?
You know, it's okay. This is a long. I'll probably give you a long answer like I give everything else. Back during COVID, you know, when all these people bought campers, my thinking was, okay, there going to be a lot of used campers for sale. You know, just people don't know and they're jumping into this because they're tired of being home. They don't want to stay in a hotel now. But if they went somewhere they liked and the camper didn't tear up too much, because they're going to tear up, and the kids have a good time, they're gonna stick with it, and that's what I've seen. I thought a lot of them would be gone and out of here, but that's not the case. They bought and upgrading. We didn't get a big enough one, or this one doesn't have the features I want, so they're not getting out of it. I'm not saying nobody, and there's age happens. People. We've had a lot of people over the years, 10 years, they used to come all the time, and they just sort of disappear. They've aged out. But I don't see an end to it as long as, even if the economy goes south, crazy south, and you have a house that's you're paying this much for, and a camper that's you're paying 1/10 of that for, worst case scenario, you find a place you put your camper and live in your camper. It may not be the situation you want, but you can afford it. And I think we're in an industry that's pretty much foolproof. Now, you may drop your prices to make it work and keep people there and all those kind of things, but I think you'd survive.
I don't think anybody's dropping prices.
No,
anytime
but I'm
soon.
saying if it went terrible,
Yeah.
But as far as just how are things going now? Yeah, that's great, and I don't see an end. But like I said, worst case scenario, I think something could happen.
From an occupancy standpoint, what are you seeing right now? Are you seeing like some of your higher occupancies? Is it higher than it normally would be, or about the same?
We are,
or you just need to raise your prices so your occupancy isn't as high.
I may need to do that again. But I'll probably leave that to the next guy.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to change anything right now. I have to let him make those decisions. I think it's a good time to do it when somebody else comes in.
Yeah.
I could do it and save the anger, but who
You
knows?
don't need that right now.
I don't need another problem. I don't want any more problems.
Yeah.
But I think campgrounds, if you have a place that's halfway decent, like I think I said this earlier, halfway decent, and you keep it up and you're nice to people, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Now, I think a lot of my wife is very personable, remembers people's names, dogs' names, all that stuff. Her and Evan are the personalities. I'm the fix it guy. I'm okay, but I run out of things. It doesn't sound like I do, but I do run out of things to say in conversations.
Right.
Talking about this, I can talk for a while, but like sitting around at a table and just talking, I run out of things to say.
Yeah.
You're asking me questions, that's why I can talk.
Now, you said about age.
Yeah.
Are you seeing a trend of younger campers now? Not just the older aging out, but it used to be people thought about in the big stereotypical world that campgrounds, like the full-timers, they were all older, retired,
Right.
and just going across the country, fluttering around.
Yeah.
Are you seeing a change in that structure now?
Back to COVID, the people that can work, remotely, not campground owners can't, but people that can work remotely, a lot of them work. We had a lot of people, working, traveling, which is good for, if you want to do monthly. There's a lot of different kinds of campgrounds. It's what you're into. You could do a monthly campground and keep that thing slap full probably if you're in a place that's halfway decent. I think. Right. It's just a place for people to stay. But yeah, I think a lot of them are younger doing the monthly thing, and I think also people, get tired of staying in a hotel too. That was me. I didn't want to stay in a hotel for 6 months. Yeah. So.
Especially people with kids.
Yeah. Right. Yes. Yes.
Traveling as a family.
Right. And if you have a place with a playground and pool and all those things, they want those things. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, like I said, looking back, and it's not because you're here, but I think you guys made a big difference. And a lot of it's not. You don't know everything. You can't know everything, and sometimes it's good to have somebody that knows the stuff you don't. And accounting was one of them. A lot of things, pricing, all that stuff. We were just sort of going by what the guy had before, and we'd say, okay, well, let's raise it. Let's raise it $20.
You had a manual system before, right? With reservations.
Man, I guess you could call it that.
Well,
it was. So we got here. The guy had sheets of paper. They're probably 5 feet wide and 3.5 feet tall, stuck beside the wall, on the wall right beside check-in. And it was a grid, so it was like dates of the month and campsites. I don't remember which way it was. It might have been months and sites, whatever. And he only had, at the time, I think we only had 17 sites for camping. There's 50 sites up here, but 17 were for camping. The rest were his monthly. We're up to like 28 or so now. And we probably could do more, but some of the sites don't work. But anyway, that big sheet of paper. So you had to write down, when they called, you would write a little form out. He had like a little tear off, like the mimeograph copy paper thing. And we'd keep that and then give them part when they show up. But fill out that form and then go to that grid and write it down, like their last names, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday on this dates, this person. And then you'd see what's open kind of thing. And that was fine for the first month. But if you're like 3 months back, you're up underneath all that paper trying to, where am I here and writing this stuff in. So I think that didn't last very long. We bought I think it was Campground Master was the name of that one. And it was basically just a spreadsheet kind of thing. And we didn't use all this. It had a point of sale, but we didn't do any of that. We just did it the way he was doing it. It was just basically keeping track to get rid of that big piece of paper. And then we changed to another system that didn't work out. And now we're on ResNexus, which is not perfect. I don't think any of them, I doubt any of them are perfect, but it really works well for us. We did online. Another thing, we did online reservations. That helps out a lot. You're not on the phone so much. So all those things, there's a lot of changes since we've been here, and some of them, I don't think the online thing was much when we bought it. I don't know if anybody was doing much of that early on.
Yeah, it was just in the beginning phases.
Yeah. So we got it. We're slow on technology. We're not cutting edge of anything, but that made a big difference. You guys do it this way. When you sell, how are they going to run it? I'm like, man, I don't really know. I think they own campgrounds. They already do some amenities. Will they do the exact same things we do? No, nobody's going to. I didn't do that. I stuck with the guy that owned it before me. He did things a certain way, and I stayed with it for a little while until I figured out we're not doing this anymore, and this is changing, and we're going to do this different. And we got, we did it how we wanted to run it.
Right.
And that's the thing about a personally owned campground. It's not a KOA.
Right.
Nothing against KOA, so don't get me in trouble. But they have a system. You do it this way.
Right.
I would say you go to classes to learn how to do their way of stuff. We didn't do any of that. I mean, we went to Carvick and Arvik and other things and heard stuff. We made our own decisions, and some of them were right, some were wrong, but none of them killed us.
Right.
And I think in the long run, people like mom and pops a lot of times.
Well, I'll tell you, we just came back, as I mentioned, from traveling, and we had a couple of experiences at big corporate-owned resorts along the way, because there weren't any others.
Right.
And, man, I came back, and I told Chad, it's like, we got to not hit those again.
Yeah.
We had situations where there were trees, and they said, oh, we got a company that will trim the trees, but they're not going to trim them now. They're just going to scrape down your rig instead.
Yeah.
And then we went to one other campground. We had a tree issue, and there's a guy there before we back in the site. Like 2 minutes later, I know you would be like, let me trim that for you.
Well, I try now. Like I say, the trees grow all the time.
Oh yeah.
And I'm out here. I drive along, and I every so often I'll say, okay, that looks a little low. And I don't have a measurer, but normally I gotta, depending on what I'm cutting, pole saw, and if I can sort of get an idea where I need to be. But we try, like I said, that's one of those things you try to keep up on. But there's so much all the time, and sometimes I want to do this today, but I got to do this today.
Right.
Whether I wanted to do or what I had planned.
Goes on the to-do list.
Yes, goes out the window. You just got to do the important. Sometimes you put out the fire first.
Yeah. But we definitely noticed a difference between the mom and pop owned campground where they care.
Right.
Whereas you could pop into another one where some big corporation owns it, and that person standing behind the counter could care less if you have a great experience or not.
Right.
They're just there to get their job done and mark in the computer that you're there. We actually arrived at one at 1:45 in the afternoon. It was pouring rain like a monsoon. I run inside because, of course, we left our rain jackets in the car that we're towing behind us. So I run inside. I'm soaking wet. And the lady says, oh, I'm sorry, we won't have your site ready until 2 o'clock. That's check-in time.
What are they doing between 1:45 and 2?
There's a big question.
Somebody out there doing something?
There was nobody there doing anything at all.
Yeah.
And so she said, we'll let you know when it's ready.
Yeah. Well, we let that kind of stuff, I mean, I have people show up at 10 o'clock for a 2 o'clock check-in. I'm like,
it's a bit much.
I still got people leaving.
Right.
And if the site's empty and you call me, I don't mind working with you, but our road's narrow in some places, and I don't want you passing because I'll get that review.
Right.
They won't be mad at that guy. They'll say, road's too narrow. I had to
Yeah.
wait I had to back up because a camper was coming the other way.
Right.
Well, they shouldn't have been.
They shouldn't
That's
have
why
been
we have
here right
that's
now.
why we have our that's why we have our times.
Right.
But it happens. Yeah.
But there is a difference
Oh,
in,
sure,
in
sure,
somebody who takes ownership of a campground and they care about
Yeah.
what that review says.
Right. Oh yeah.
Versus
yeah. Oh, they
somebody
hurt you.
who's-
Reviews hurt you.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you hate to. I mean,
And you hate
and we
something
and we
bad
have
happens.
we have them, and it's like, why didn't you tell me? I could have
Right.
fixed that if you'd let me
Right.
know.
Right.
But instead, you put it out there for everybody that forever.
Right. Right. But the response to it, honestly, I'll read, and when we look at reviews, whether it's for a campground or a
Right.
restaurant, if I see somebody had a complaint and I see that owner has put in their
Right.
response and it's a,
Yeah.
hey, I'm sorry, I wish I would have known, I'll
Right.
be happy to take care of that, blah,
Right.
blah.
You're not answering.
I'm
You're not
good.
answering the person that wrote the review.
No,
You're answering everybody
all
else.
the other people looking.
Right. And we, like I said, I know a guy that owned one up sort of near here, and he was really rough.
Yeah, I know
in
what
his
you're talking about.
in his answering of reviews. I mean, he was
Terrible.
yeah. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
We never answer them bad. I mean, there's sometimes you have to say, well, you're
I'm
incorrect
pretty sure
about
we have
this.
a whole podcast about that.
We did a whole podcast
Yeah.
episode
Yeah.
about one of his reviews. We broke it down.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like, wow.
Yeah, I'm like, man.
Whew.
Like, I've said this in another video, but we have a family that stayed with us years ago from Woodruff, which is 15 minutes down the road. They know everybody. I can't tell you people they've gotten here because they came and camped with us. And like I said, it's been here for 50 years, and people still don't know.
Right.
I have people all the time. Gosh, I just live in Simpsonville, which is not that far away. I never knew this was here. I'm like, well, you hadn't looked, I guess, because I got signs on the interstate. It's on the internet.
Yep.
I think if you look for Pine Ridge Campground, I think we're the number one in the country. There's more than one, so
Right.
make sure you get the right one. We're in South Carolina, which happens. I had somebody just the last week that was supposed to be in Michigan, made a reservation for us, and was pulling into a campground in Michigan. I'm like, sorry.
Oh.
And that day, and they want a refund. I'm like, and I hate that you did that, but I can't. I've blocked the
Resell
site
that
for
site.
you. Yeah, I blocked it for you. What's the odds of me
Yeah.
getting rid of it today? So,
Well, you're doing a great job.
well, we try. But back to the customer thing. Cece is like all our camp hosts or helpers or whatever you want to call them, work campers, and Cecilia and Evan, and I do okay, but they're really good at that upfront thing.
Yeah.
Personal, say ask questions. Sometimes it's almost too much. I'm out there waiting to take them to their site, and we got 3 in a row
You're
waiting.
like,
I'm like,
"Well,
okay, a little less talking. I got to get them out of the way. But
people
people like that. Yeah. It makes a difference. Instead of here's your map.
Right.
You know.
And we were talking earlier, again, being up in New England and coming back home here.
Right.
And like people talk to you here. This is the norm in the
Sure.
South. It's
Sure.
the Southern hospitality way. And people, especially in the North, it's
Right.
just a different way of life.
Right.
And here, people do appreciate
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Especially people who aren't from here.
Right.
They may be taken back a little bit at
Right,
first, but
right.
they're like, wow,
Yeah.
they really are happy to see me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So Cecilia, she'll talk to somebody and she'll know like that they have common friends somehow
Yeah.
in the office. I'm like, how did you even get to that point?
Yeah.
That you figured out that you knew each other, you knew some of the same people. I'm like, it's crazy. She's
Yeah.
very good.
She is. She is.